Hundreds of years ago, the area where I'm standing used to belong to the Bishop of Glasgow. It's full of birch trees now, but you can still see the odd apple tree dotted about. Come back in autumn, you can even pick some. But when this belonged to the bishop, this was his orchard, his garden, if you like. And it was to a garden not unlike this one, with fig trees and olive trees rather than apple trees, that Jesus went to pray on that Thursday evening. He'd eaten the Last Supper with his friends, that Passover meal that reminded them of how God had set his people free from slavery in Egypt and made a new people out of them and brought them into a new land. And then Jesus went to pray, because he knew that a great ordeal lay ahead of him. He knew that God was preparing something even greater than deliverance from slavery in Egypt. He knew that God was preparing a deliverance and a salvation from sin. And Jesus knew what that was going to cost him. And he came to pray. And he prayed the most amazing thing. He prayed, Lord, if there's another way, make it so. Jesus knew the ordeal that lay ahead of him, and he was scared. And he responded in the way that so many people do when they face the unknown, or they face what seems to them to be terrifying and scary. They pray. Jesus concluded his prayer with the words, "But not what I want, but what you want. May that be done." Jesus surrendered himself to God's will, knowing that it was through that ordeal that awaited him that salvation for the world, the offer of new life and forgiveness, was going to be made available to all. And Jesus began his prayer with the word Father. It's a word that speaks of relationship and of trust. And in effect, as Jesus prays, he says, Father, I trust you. And if this is the way it has to be, this is the way it has to be. And I'm willing. As we, in our city, in our nation, in our world, face up to all the challenges that coronavirus and COVID-19 are presenting to us, economic challenges, health challenges, personal challenges, as we get sick or those we love get sick, as the whole future seems uncertain, it raises again the question of prayer. We want to pray, and yet we sometimes ask, is there any point, is there any purpose to it if God's decided what's going to happen? Well, just as Jesus prayed, so should we. But just as Jesus trusted himself to his Father, so can we. The ordeal that Jesus was about to go through, its whole purpose was so that we could come back into relationship with God that we've turned away from, and once again know him as our Father, the one we can trust completely. And so although as we go through hard times now, and we will go through them again in the future, and we have questions and doubts, let's follow the example of Jesus. And let's pray. And let's be open and honest with God and tell him what we want. But let's also be quiet and trusting. I know that in the end, the goal of our prayer is to nestle into God, our loving Father, and to trust that his will is perfect and good and best for us.